Hey, what's up, guys? Emo Cat Dad here, hanging out with you, bringing you yet another edition of Emo Cat Dad Listens. If you're new here, then what it is I do is every day of 2024, I vow to check out a new band or artist. Check out 4 songs from across their discographies, give you my initial thoughts on the songs, give you my ranking of the songs, and then, of course, give you my overall thoughts on the artist based on what I just heard. Today's artist, as you can see right there, is Paleface, aka Paleface Swiss. Apparently they were known as Paleface, and then they were forced to change their name, so they're from Switzerland, so they added the Swiss on there. But I'm still calling them Paleface. All their albums say Paleface on it, so that's what I'm rolling with. This was a suggestion from one of you kind viewers, so please keep those suggestions coming. Get down in the comments below. Leave me bands or artists you think I absolutely need to check out, and hopefully I will get to them on a future episode, just like this one with Paleface. So I had heard the name Paleface a lot, but I never really checked them out. They were another one of these deathcore bands that I stayed away from. As you guys may have seen on some other videos where I dove into deathcore, I'm not a fan. But we're going to give Paleface a fair shot anyways, and find out if on the thumbnail of this video I'm doing this face, which you already know because you clicked on this video. But in any event, let's get to Paleface. Alright, so the first track I checked out was off their first EP, Chapter 1, From the Gallows, and it was called Servant Filth. This should be good. Okay, so the intro of this sounds like it's a sample of an old movie murder. It was an interesting choice and definitely set me up for what I was going to hear, which was not very good. Yep. I understand some of these words he's saying. Okay, to be completely honest, even if this wasn't so deathcore heavy, I would have a hard time understanding what's happening because the production is just so rough sounding on this. Like, the music is super muted, the vocals aren't well mixed in. I literally think that someone recorded this off one of those speak-in plays. So, yeah, does not sound good. The production was rough. So, debut EP, hopefully on the next one, it at least sounds better. And, of course, the next one was Chapter 2, The Witch King. And off that album, I checked out the track Human Hunter. Alright, so, mission accomplished. The production on this track, so much better. I can actually hear all the deathcore sections that I do not like. Clear as day. The blast beats in this track were way too much. Not my thing. But I will say when they did do the hardcore sections, which unfortunately were few and far between, those did rule. So, more of that please, less of everything else. What comes after Chapter 2? Chapter 3, the last selection. And off that album, I checked out Lights Out. Okay, so we get some hardcore right off the top here. That excited me. But I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop and for the deathcore to kick in. And it did in parts, I guess. Some of the vocals did have that deathcore tinge to it. But the music kind of stayed hardcore throughout. So that was a big plus for me. With the exception of the long outro. Because, of course, there's got to be a freaking long outro. And finally, Paleface's most recent album, Fear and Dagger, was released in 2022. I checked out the track Pain from that. Okay, so the middle of this track ruled. It was hardcore, just like Lights Out. Really dug it. The parts surrounding the middle were solid to okay, I guess. Which doesn't sound like much, but given where I started with this band, I'll take it any day of the week. Alright, so those are 4 tracks I checked out. Let's go ahead and rank them. At number 1, we're going Lights Out. Pretty much a pure hardcore track with the exception of some vocal deathcore growls. I can deal with that as long as they're giving me that sweet, sweet hardcore throughout, which Paleface did. I'm hoping this is a shift in tone for them from the earlier stuff. So if you're a Paleface Swiss fan, let me know in the comments so I can dig into this catalog instead of the earlier tracks, I guess. At number 2, we're going Pain. No surprise here. This was like a little section of Lights Out I liked. The stuff surrounding it was not as enjoyable, but if you told me this was a number 2 song, I'd say it's a solid overall pick. But the solidness goes away at number 3. That's where you find Human Hunter. There was some flashes of brilliance in the hardcore part, but not enough to keep it running over the whole track. And all I can say is at least these songs were shorter, not like a 7-minute slog of a deathcore tracks like some bands do. And that For Servant Filth. Even if this song was recorded like the second EP was, it's probably still going to end up in 4th. There was no redeeming qualities whatsoever about this track for me personally. It sounded rough. It sounded like it came out of a walkie-talkie. It's not for me musically or vocally to begin with, so just adding on that layer, no thank you. Alright, so what are my overall thoughts on Paleface? I want to be like Switzerland and not take sides, but it's really hard to ignore the deathcore in this band, especially for known deathcore hater, Emo Cat Dad. But I can at least appreciate the hardcore elements that they're adding in. That slam hardcore really gets me going. I just wish we didn't have to deal with the growly vocals so much. But like I said when I was talking about the tracks, if Paleface has turned the corner and has gone more hardcore, please, please, please let me know in the comments, because I'm really interested in checking out those songs. And they also have released a bunch of singles since the last album, so if you would suggest any of those singles, please let me know in the comments below as well, because if there's some hardcore leaning ones, I'll definitely give them a listen. Alright guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm your friendly neighborhood Emo Cat Dad. Thanks for suggesting more deathcore so that I could listen to this and broaden my horizons and maybe one day find a deathcore band I do like. Paleface came close, but that's because they lean on the core a little bit in the later tracks, not so much the death, so that works for me. So hey, if you know other deathcore bands that are basically hardcore bands, maybe I'll like them. But they don't exist, because if they did, they'd just be called hardcore bands. But that shouldn't stop you from leaving me other suggestions in the comments below. Maybe you do know a super sweet hardcore band. Please leave it down below. I want to listen to it. I love hardcore. Deathcore, no. But, you know, if you leave me a deathcore band, as this video shows, I'll still listen to it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Leave me your thoughts on Paleface in the comments below as well. Let's start a conversation. You can tell me how wrong I am for disliking their earlier stuff. But hey, at least they came out swinging on the later albums with that sweet, sweet hardcore that my ears just love. But even if you think I'm stupid and that deathcore rules, maybe I'll come back tomorrow when I'll listen to another deathcore band, or maybe a hardcore band, or maybe it will be a pop star. You don't really know until it goes up. But the best way to make sure that you are informed when it does go up is if you simply cut my wrist and hit subscribe. Emo Cat Dad signing off for now, but until tomorrow, I want to hear you sad.